Hey Corey, this is the product detail video that you were asking about. So we'll run through top to bottom. I'm gonna give you all the details, probably do too much information, but that way you can kind of pick and choose. So this is the jacket, kind of starting with fit. You've seen this in the pictures. It's a active fit, pretty, I don't know, I wouldn't call it slim and I wouldn't call it roomy. It's just kind of a tailored fit on the body. From top to bottom, let's see, we'll start with materials. So the exterior shell, this is that Ventil fabric we've been talking about. So this is the water resistant, windproof cotton and really tightly woven, amazing fabric. Remember the kind of play into Ventil's history from the Royal Air Force, the Shirley Institute, the whole British intelligence origin of this and why it was such a game-changing fabric for the Royal Air Force in World War II. It's a really cool history. It's also Swiss made now. It's interesting to kind of note. From a design perspective, we went with kind of like a moto influence, classic work jacket, and then just a kind of an everyday coat and different style influences from each one. So moto influence would be this adjustable cuff on the back. You've actually got a pretty good shoulder articulation. You can see photos of that there, but there's a flap so your shoulders can actually move forward and ride like this. From a design perspective, we have this cover flap that goes behind the zipper when you zip it up. That's a storm flap. Basically keeps wind from blowing through and getting cold through that zipper. The zipper is actually a YKK Vislon. It's a really good quality. We wouldn't want to call it this, but it's the Metalux line, so it's made to look like metal, but it is much smoother, has a much smoother action, and has a really nice vintage look to it when it's zipped up. On that cover flap, you've actually got a zigzag detail. It's probably hard to see on the video, but it's a really nice heritage touch to all of it. You've got double needle stitching throughout, really strong, good seam work. 2 side entry chest pockets. That's more of an outdoor influence from a design perspective. These are pretty deep. They're also silk lined, so you can see that in there. They feel nice. It goes both ways on each one of these. Interior, this is where you get into that silk. So it's a twill silk. It's not, we want to make sure in people's minds they know that it's a hardy, heavy duty, long lasting silk. It's not dainty like lingerie. It's a twilled heavyweight silk. And it's actually quilted with a really cool Southwest pattern. So all these lines actually have this Southwest pattern that we actually use across some of our other products, like the straps on our overalls. You got an interior pocket, nice and deep on both the front, both the right and left side. On the inside, there's some tags, Ventil, HD wool, and our organic cotton tag. Oh, forgot to tell you, this is actually not just Ventil, it's organic Ventil. And that's important because Ventil has somewhat of a dubious sustainability history, but not when you use an organic cotton input. It does have a DWR water repellency on it, but it's a C0 PFC free DWR, and that is important. So it's not a forever chemical that lives in the environment forever on this to make it water resistant. It's environmentally friendly. The insulation on the inside is from HD wool. Basically it's UK sourced, it's traceable ethical wool, and it's a batting. So it's a little bit thicker in the body and a little bit thinner through the arms, so you have mobility without a bunch of bulk. It's very warm. The jacket itself is like almost I call it windproof. It is water resistant. Using waterproof is somewhat dubious because it's got a hydrostatic head of about 600, where like a Gore-Tex is like a 10,000. But a light rainstorm, it's gonna do totally fine. A soggy day, even a heavy rainstorm for a while, it's gonna bead that water off and stay waterproof for the most part. That zigzag stitching detail goes under the back collar all the way around. The elbows, I'm gonna turn my mannequin a little bit here so you can see the back, if I can rotate him. Okay, so the shoulder articulation I was talking about right here, so that actually pulls out. If a mannequin can move, you'd see him being able to have full range of motion. There's actually articulation at the elbow too, so that dart in this seam here is not just decorative, it allows you to have a little pre-bend to your elbow. And so while this jacket has no stretch, there's also no restriction of movement, and that's important that we know, let people know. Adjustable cuff, like I said here, and while we're talking pockets, these are also silk lined hand warmer pockets. They're very deep. Zipper pulls into a little zipper garage. It's really nice and tight right there. Vintage triple bar tack on the top and bottom to keep that pocket nice and secure. All the pockets are silk lined, and I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else from a feature perspective. As we talked about in the messaging questionnaire, a lot of the messaging on this is going to be as a result of the fabrics that it's made out of. The Ventil organic technical cotton, the silk liner, the traceable ethical wool, insulation, and the fact that all three of those are natural materials, no plastics, no synthetics in this. We would say if we were going to get technical, exclusive of trims, because you have some synthetics in the zippers, but that's not, we don't just basically just don't need to talk about that. By weight, by matter into it, it's largely a fully natural jacket. So silk has really great technical properties, so does wool. So silk is thermoregulating, it's antimicrobial, it's sweat wicking, not to mention it feels amazing and is long lasting and hardy. The wool on the inside is the same thing. So wool is nature's first tech fabric. It's antimicrobial, it's insulating when it's wet, which is a key feature from insulation. So if this does get soaked through all the way to the cotton, the wool itself is going to keep the wearer warm even if the jacket is fully saturated. Wool's pretty incredible. It's also ethical. We don't want to forget talking about that. Wool can have some issues with the ethical treatment of the animals. This stuff is certified good. The jacket itself, cotton, cotton's not a new material, but compared to a lot of technical materials, cotton has some inherent benefits, and it mainly gets into that antimicrobial sphere. So anything natural doesn't hold odor like a synthetic does, and that's good to play up. So this jacket doesn't need to be washed as much. It's hard wearing. Cotton is a very hard wearing fabric. It only gets softer and better looking as it ages, and we want to basically talk about the idea that this jacket will patina and wear and take on some of the life of the wearer over the course of that time. Cotton also has the ability or the benefit of not melting when sparks hit it. So I don't know if we got this shot in video, but it's probably something we can kind of fake or explain, is that you can wear this jacket around a campfire all night, and if sparks hit you, it's not going to melt. A lot of water-resistant, waterproof, insulated jackets are made of something like nylon or polyester, and one spark will melt a hole in it, and this one will not have that. So it's safe for welding, it's safe around a campfire, all these things that a lot of jackets are very vulnerable for in this category. And then just keep in mind price point. The price point is because of the textiles. It's because this is a very expensive Swiss-made fabric. There's a lot of silk being used. Silk was never cheap, but it's definitely not cheap anymore. And then wool itself, the ethical traceable wool, is a very high price point insulation. So we need to sell those things more than features. And this isn't a jacket that we want to put in, 14 pockets. It would ruin the timeless aesthetic of it. So we have very sensible, laid out 6 pockets that are good for everything that you need without going overboard. There's technical features, kind of like the articulated elbows and the shoulders, but they're pretty subdued and not trying to take it too far. That's how we want to talk about this, like a nuanced jacket. The design is very important. The materials are very important. It's also very important what we didn't try to force into it. I think that about covers it. Both of them are going to have this plum liner. There's a very slight production difference that this collar is going to be a little more structured, but small stuff. Cool. Really excited to work with you. Thanks, Corey.